Hello, everybody. My name is Jonah and this is my EP project, Wasteful Pleasures. I've put a QR code here and on the next slide that links right to the project website, but other than that, let's get going. So, to mention what is on the website, you'll find everything from the equipment and software I use to pictures and videos I took documenting parts of the music making. I also have the different album covers I made and all the demos I also made containing the progress for each song I made before the final result. So before I get into the actual project, I just wanted to go over my influences and where I'm coming from musically for this project. Growing up in South Carolina during the 2000s and living on the West Coast 2010 onwards, I was exposed to a variety of hip hop and electronic artists growing up with some of my favorites, being artists like Timbaland, Rat-a-Tat, MGMT, and Outkast. They, along with my parents, had great impacts on my musical taste as if they showed me lots of progressive and southern rock along with some country and folk. So to get to the actual concept for this album, I originally wanted to speak on some of the feelings I've had thinking about modern life and the effects social technology has had on us individually and socially up until now. I just wanted to make something that speaks on the questions like what is it like having to exist in the physical and digital at once? What's left of a person's identity when the screens are turned off? Things like that. And I titled it Wasteful Pleasures because I wanted to put a name on the moments of time we lose when indulging in the digital instead of being in the real, like being able to only do things that are enabled only by technology. So, how did this concept turn out? So, as I was creating it, and about halfway through, I started just having kind of these moments of anxiety and fear. I sort of took over when thinking about the end of the project and how it could affect me. I definitely believe the isolation had a great contributing factor to these thoughts because it's much different being able to go to the UCSD studio versus having to just be at home. But I still like what I ultimately ended up with. I mean, I'm still slightly disappointed that the time and environment didn't match up to allow me to have the confidence to take it all the way, but that's all right. So, what did I do instead? Well, my project ended up becoming altered. So I still wanted to focus on the concept of being emotionally impacted by social technology, but I instead wanted to think about how these emotions, about the emotions themselves rather than the problems. So what did my project end up becoming? Well, I still wanted to focus on the concept of being emotionally impacted by social technology. I instead wanted to think about these emotions rather than the problems themselves. I basically had to ask myself, how can my music distract others like me from the modern feelings and issues? Thinking about these sounds and the genres I grew up with, I basically created a record that just kind of celebrates the feeling of what it would feel like not having to deal with these modern problems. So for this presentation, I decided to showcase my song Echo Traps as the main feature. Being the longest of the four I've made for the project, I really feel like it encapsulates the overall feeling of the project, both emotionally and sonically. All right. So here I just wanted to mention the plugins that were really essential during this whole project. For many of the synths I used came out of the Chord collection, with the Triton, the Monopoly, and the MS-20 being some favorites of mine. When doing the percussion, I actually wanted to find something new. I wanted a way of being able to have really good control over the sound shaping and expression of the sounds with a sequencer all in one. I found UVI's drum designer was a great choice, and it really helped with making the drums sound more alive and real. For all my EQ and filtering, Fab Filters plugins like Pro Q3 and Volcano 2, pretty much my bread and butter on every channel that I use. As for effects and everything else, I just used mostly a combination of plugins from Sound Toys, Waves, and Arturia. And just to talk about the album art for a second, here I created multiple covers over the course of the project just to try and capture the feelings of the music and what it was I wanted to represent visually. It took me actually until near the end of the project that I was finally able to center in on the idea for the image. After thinking about how to represent the visual space I created in the music and what lighting and colors would create that kind of isolated club environment. So, what did I learn at the end of all of this? Well, I read this quote at the top here somewhere a couple weeks ago, and it just really stuck with me. And I think I know why. Going through the pressures I experienced at a time like this during this project made me realize the importance of having someone there supporting you. This kind of isolation really exposed me to the downsides of not having someone right there musically, right there in your corner when it comes to music. I mean, it's one thing to be able to do all this by myself, and I'm glad for the experience, but I definitely think that going forward, I need to start creating music with others if I'm going to make anything meaningful. So that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope this project seemed interesting. Again, if you want to check out the rest of the project and listen to the other three tracks, this QR code will take you right to the website. Thank you.